Anthropic is no longer the quiet, safety-obsessed sibling in the AI race. It has really moved from research lab to revenue engine. In February, the company raised $30 billion at a valuation of $380 billion and said its run rate revenue is $14 billion, with Claude Code alone above $2.5 billion and business subscriptions quadrupling since the start of the year. Anthropic's revenue run rate hit $9 billion plus by end 2025, up from $4 billion in July the prior year. If nothing else, these numbers explain why AI tooling is a new asset class for investors. Just recently, Anthropic's Cowork agent plugins sparked a sell-off in global software stocks as investors debated how fast white-collar work gets automated. And now comes the India chapter. Here's Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei in Bengaluru earlier this week, just before heading to the India AI Impact Summit in Delhi.
I believe Anthropic's business, its run rate revenue within India, has doubled over the last 4 months since I last visited. And Claude Code may have grown even faster with this set of developers. So it's just really incredible to see kind of the rate at which things are happening. It mirrors the general progress and the explosion in Claude models and coding models, but I think is even more extreme in India than we've seen in other places in the world.
In fact, Indian benchmarks moved up on higher IT stocks after Anthropic's recent tie-up with bellwether stock Infosys. Other tie-ups? Cognizant, Air India. Other plans? Hosting developer summits and hackathons, planned investments in Indic language benchmarks, and working with public institutions. So, in this episode, I talk to ET startup and tech trackers Puran Chowdhury and Disha Acharya about Anthropic's India thesis, about how it isn't chasing consumers with low prices, but embedding Claude into enterprise workflows, regulated industries, and the IT services machine. Listen on, it's Thursday, the 19th of Feb. I'm Anirban Chowdhury. This is the Morning Brief. Hi Puran, Disha, very warm welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hi Anirban, thank you for having me here.
Hi Anirban, nice to be here.
So Disha, let's start with you. Why is Anthropic choosing India now? Do you think it's a little late, especially if we talk in terms of AI timeframes?
Okay, so India has become one of the largest and fastest growing user markets for generative AI. And I think it's the right time for any AI company to come. We have seen OpenAI also entering India, and now it's Anthropic's turn. So startups are building AI-first products, enterprises, IT services, embedding large language models into the workforce. So it makes very important for any AI company to be in India. And I don't think Anthropic is late. In fact, in October, Anthropic partnered with Axel to organize a Developers Day in Bangalore, where it's announced its potential expansion plans in India. And since then, its revenue rate has doubled from India. And in fact, one of the key things here which keeps Anthropic apart from other AI platforms is that it focuses more on enterprise level companies as its potential customer than consumer AI. So in consumer AI terms, Anthropic might look like it's late because the first wave of excitement was driven by ChatGPT. But right now, as companies are now shifting from pilots to real deployments, budgets or even governance structures are in place in India, and Anthropic focusing on enterprise application, it looks like it's right time.
All right. Okay. Now, coming to you, Puran, see, the AI-centric interviews that I have produced over the last few months always have this one question about pricing strategy. And even when I spoke to Rajan Anandan of Peak 15 recently, he said that, AI in India has to be extremely affordable. If we talk about the pricing game in terms of Anthropic's plans in India, can it compete without playing it aggressively? How important is it for the company?
So Anirban, I think India is definitely one of the most price sensitive market. I think that is a given at this point. But when we look at Anthropic, right, they have taken another direction. They're more focused on enterprise AI, where they're trying to play the high utility or high reliability game. And you also have to look at that the customers or the consumers of Anthropic or Claude, for that matter, are these developers. And some of their partnerships are also more industry focused and organization focused rather than direct consumers or people like us, right? And I agree with Disha that this is where Anthropic is playing its larger game. And these developers are really a serious punch. They keep experimenting and they're very well equipped with what models are doing, what are the new updates and things like that. So that is where Anthropic's current focus is. Now, eventually, in my skewed opinion, they might have to look at pricing to stay competitive with, let's say, ChatGPT and Gemini. But you have to realize that this is the same company that bled markets both in the US and India with its Claude Cowork tool, or now what we are calling as SaaS apocalypse, right? And Claude Code is more like a productivity multiplier. Companies such as Air India and Cred are already using it to ship their code faster. If a developer becomes 15x more productive, it's better for the company and it also helps Anthropic's viewpoint in the market. So in this case, subscription fee becomes almost negligible. We don't really have to look at that if their entire moat is on enterprise. Just to give you an update, on Tuesday, Infosys has now signed up with Anthropic. They have announced a collaboration to develop and deliver some advanced enterprise AI solution for their customers in telecommunication, financial services, manufacturing, and software development. If I have to sum it up, Anthropic is embedding itself into a multi-million-dollar IT industry rather than just fighting the individual $20 per month user game.
And if I were to ask you, what will be its most important differentiator, or what can be a differentiator for an AI major? Because there seems to be this, perception that does India even care about which frontier model it uses? What would you say to that?
I think that's a very interesting question. From an India perspective, I think we're very early on to distinguish it. We also have a few brilliant startups building in this space. So we'll have to really wait and watch. But the way industry folks look at it, the Indic language mode is really selling in India. Anthropic, like many other LLM companies, is building benchmarks for many of these Indian languages, be it Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, you name it, and they're all working around it. So they're partnering with many of these non-profit organizations and think tanks to generate this data. So when Dario was here in Bangalore on Monday, he said that, and which is something worth noting, is Claude is working hard to support the long tails of languages. And India's linguistic diversity creates real opportunity for them here. He said that it's very compelling that some of these non-profit and social benefit applications are really coming out from the country. They have an initiative called as Adalat AI, which is making information from court cases publicly available so that people can understand, all built on Claude. They're working with organizations such as Acharya, Collective Intelligence Project, to build evaluations for this data and testing performance. So basically, these can be used for agriculture, law, certain other domains. What Dario also said is that they intend to make these evaluations publicly available. So once they do that, I think Anthropic and Claude's value will be better placed in the Indian market.
That's very interesting. Huh? So my assessment of Anthropic will only be via Claude, which I use for like very limited purposes, and its overall stack will be much wider. So if we want to compare Anthropic in terms of brand recall and capability to OpenAI and Google, where does it stand, Disha?
Yeah. There are two things here, right? One is the consumer AI context and one is the enterprise AI context. We just discussed earlier how OpenAI led the first wave of excitement around AI over a year ago. And it has become synonymous to LLMs for many consumers, including you and me today. But Google, on the other hand, took advantage of integrating Gemini across all its products. And this helped in building better brand recall for all of these platforms, general public, sure. But if you ask any developer in US or Bangalore today, they are using Claude or have used it at some point. Like a lot of developers use Claude over other models for their complex coding, other usage. Even there's a general agreement that Claude has better capabilities. Even if you look at Claude's uses in India, in their recent report, when they announced that India expansion, they said that more than half of India's Claude users comes from computer and mathematical tasks, which is building application, modernizing systems, and even shipping production software. So Claude's brand recall comes from a lot of technical use, enterprise use, which is very well established in the developer community right now.
All right. Okay. Now, I was reading this. I think this post by Matt Schumer has become pretty viral about something big happening, and how AI will take over and impact and all that. And he said something to the effect that Amode and Anthropic are probably the most safety focused AI companies, or the most morally compunctuous, or the most ethical, however you want to look at it. But Disha, will Indian enterprises pay a premium for safer AI?
So it is right that Anthropic focuses on being more safe. And
Mhm.
I think Indian enterprises are likely to spend that extra on investing in safety, because it's not just about ethics, right? It's about compliance and data sovereignty. And with regulated industries like banking and healthcare, the fear is not just about hallucinations here. There's data leakage issues, there's regulatory penalties, and there's a reputational damage that is there here, right? So I think from what I understand with my conversations with industry experts, there's a good chance that Indian enterprises are going to pay that extra money. I mean, through Anthropic or not, that's a different case. But they are likely to invest more into safe AI integration.
Okay, two forward looking questions. The first one for Puran. Can India become an innovation ground for these companies and, not just a data mine?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is actually a test bed for some of these companies that is always known because of our population scale. A lot of innovation is happening in India today. If you look at some of these numbers, right, India is one of the fastest growing regions for software developers on GitHub, which is the open source platform. And if my data is correct, then 21.9 million users as of October are from India on GitHub. And Dario also said on Monday that in India, what makes India very interesting for him and Anthropic is that they can run experiments here involving hundreds of millions of people. Now,
Right.
that scale, including entrepreneurs and builders, help Anthropic to learn faster, fail faster, and develop faster. Now, that is something that he said is much, much harder to do in smaller markets, which is a big giveaway how important India is for Anthropic and maybe some of these other LLM companies also. Their managing director for India, Irina Ghosh, she said that nearly half of their Claude's usage for computer and mathematical tasks is now coming from India, which again tells us how Anthropic is being used in India. Some quotes or some comment from Dario also is that it's very important to skate where the puck is going, which is an, of course, ice hockey reference.
Right.
He said that you shouldn't just build for where AI models are today, but you should start building for where they'll be in a year or two. And for him, the most exciting part is medicine and health. I think he's also betting big on that. Applications tied to the physical world are the ones that will have durable businesses and meaningful impact in the long run. And what better place to build than India, right? If I have to give you a few examples, Claude is now working with Indian Ministry of Statistics along with Bharat Digital, which is a non-profit. They have recently launched an MCP server, which is running on Claude and enable users of AI system to access and query authoritative national statistics in an open manner, which is amazing because we have now access and all of this data can be now made sense of. In the private sector, if we look at it, has partnered with Swiggy, which uses its MCP server to allow people to order groceries and making dining reservation directly through Claude. So these are some interesting examples, and definitely it's a test bed. There's a lot of long-term revenue that can be generated out of India.
Right. And final question to you both. In, say, 2 years, what would
Mhm.
success in India actually look like for Anthropic?
I think if I have to take a shot at that, one is the IT service integration, right? You have Cognizant, you have Infosys now becoming the default co pilot for some of these developer communities in India,
Right.
which is a really, really large number. And the second would, I think, in my opinion, be public sector adoption, which now everyone's going at. First, you give a free version, you sort of diversify in different domains agriculture, law, everything that affects a common man. building on digital public infrastructure. I think those are two, in my opinion, that can really, really help Anthropic scale.
Disha?
Yeah, adding to what Puran said, Anthropic is already announcing a lot of developer summits and coding hackathons, etc. I can already see here from on Luma that there are a lot of meetups lined up. So I think they're already trying to reach more developer sector here. So that will help in the developer community adoption for sure. I think there's a lot of scope in the consumer AI and especially in AI-led shopping. With Swiggy integration already happening, I think there's scope for more there as well.
Puran, Disha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Anirban. This has been an amazing conversation, even from a learner perspective.
Yes, thank you so much, Anban, for having us over. This was my first podcast with you, and it was amazing.
First of many. Thank you, guys. So, Claude is not hype. It's real, it's scalable, and it's minting billions. If Claude becomes infrastructure for code, governance, and compliance, it will be an enterprise productivity story. And markets always reward productivity far longer than they reward excitement. That's it for today. You were listening to this episode in the Morning Brief. This is the latest in our limited series from the India AI Impact Summit. Hope you liked it. This episode was produced by me, sound designed by Rajas Naik. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. But on really busy news cycles such as now, we come to you more often. Keep listening.